What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down the best NFL 2021 Week 5 route running. So we're going to be looking at three specific routes here from Davante Adams, Amari Cooper, and then we're going to be taking a look at Kadarius Toney's route running from the game yesterday, okay? So I hope this video helps you guys out, gives you some value, and it teaches you a few new things about route running and why these receivers are so dangerous and able to create a ton of separation, okay? But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you want to know the specific things that you need to do every single day on a day-to-day basis on the field and in the gym to improve your overall route running, your overall skills at the wide receiver position, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate wide receiver training schedule. So what it is, it's a 4-week-long daily schedule where we break down all the specific drills you need to do with our 28-day on-field wide receiver workout plan and all the gym workouts you need to do for our 28-day wide receiver gym plan. Everything's broken down, sets, repetitions. We give you examples of each exercise, full speed examples, and break down each exercise. So I hope you guys can check that out. It's the very first link in that description below. Let's get started with this video. So Davante Adams here, this is obviously his just patented like kind of hesitation skip, hitting this DB with this 1-2 to get him to sit on this fade. So let's talk about it, right? So anytime that we see a DB who's in this catch technique, right, whether I'm off the ball maybe, or whether maybe he's 2 to 3 yards off the ball and I'm on the ball, the number one thing that I have to do, especially when he's running a slant like this or anything quick, is I got to close the distance, right? I got to make this DB uncomfortable. I got to attack him. I can't be trying to make too many moves or I give him too much space like this, because that'll be easy for him to recover. So what Adams does such a great job of is closing the space, right? Whether that's like a little hesitation skip, whether it's a foot fire, whether I just get off the ball and just go attack him straight away. But we want to close the distance, try to get him on those heels, because that's what's more likely to get him to jump on a specific route, right? So Adams, when he comes off the line of scrimmage here and he gives this little not so much like a hesitation move, but kind of, I guess, a change in tempo, he's closing the space, right? Making the DB uncomfortable. Now, when he decides to throw that 1-2, the reason why Adams is so dangerous with this 1-2, and you see him all the time get a ton of separation on this crossover, is because of how sudden his feet are. Now, why is it important to have sudden feet? A, when you're sudden with your feet, that allows you to create energy off that cut. And that energy allows you to shoot into the third phase of the route. There are 3 phases of every route. You got the stem, you got the break point, which is this 1-2 like we're talking about, and then you have the acceleration where you burst out. So if you can be sudden, that creates a lot of energy for you to widen the distance with this DB. But also when you're sudden with your feet, that forces a reaction. It's quick, obviously, right? You're moving quick. That gets a reaction out of that DB that gets him to commit to the vertical portion of the route if we are stepping outside of his frame, right? So this is such a great route because you see off his first step, that second step, he's throwing his hip to the outside. You see how much his hips and how much his shoulders are committed to the outside, like he's going to be taking this outside release. Because what is Adams known for? He did it in the game yesterday on a quick goal line fade. You give a little hesitation, then he just takes off to the outside. You get this DB sitting, and then he takes off to the outside. One of the things about being a dangerous receiver, especially when it comes to press releases, is you have to make it all look the same. Because trust me, these DBs are going to be smart, especially when you get to that next level. If you're a high school guy trying to go to college, if you're a college guy trying to take it to that next level, youth guy going to high school, DBs get better and better as the time goes on. But you make yourself unpredictable by making your releases look the same. In this position, if he had to run a fade, he could. He could just cut off of this inside move and go to the outside. And as soon as that DB starts sitting on the slant, okay, I'm not going to bite, that's when we take him on a fade. And then he's guessing the entire game. And if I can get this DB to guess, that's when I can win. So Adams does such a great job of also, like I was saying, stepping outside of his frame. That's what sells fade, because when you step outside of the frame, that's what gets that DB to turn. If you just do these 2 little quick steps, you don't throw your upper half, you don't commit your hips and your shoulders to the cut, DB ain't going to move. A disciplined DB is just going to stay square, shuffle with you, and make a break on this thing. So I have to make sure I'm stepping outside of his frame. I'm throwing my hips and my shoulders to the outside because that's where that DB is going to be watching. So I actually have to sell with that. And then my feet are sudden so I can create energy and force a reaction off of this DB. And you see how he's speed turning out of this thing, right? He's speed. So that's a fast move, right? They call it a speed turn for a reason. So a lot of receivers, what they'll do right here is they'll get separation and then they cruise, they jog. They think that they got this DB. When that DB's speed turning out of there, he's doing that for a reason to make a play on the ball. So I got to make sure no matter what, I hit him off that line, I get separation. My mindset needs that I need to keep separation, and I got to make sure that I accelerate back to this ball and make this play. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Adams hesitating, hitting him with that 1-2, and then pumping those arms to accelerate over the middle. That's a hell of a route. Now let's look at this route from Amari Cooper. We're going to be talking about how to run a post route versus off-man inside leverage, okay? So now let's talk about it. When I got a DB who's inside shade, right, the number one mindset that I need to have is why is he inside shade, and how can I get him to commit to something where I'm running an inside breaking route, right? So he's inside shade because he's trying to protect the inside. That means that he doesn't have safety help over here. He doesn't have 2 safeties, maybe not even 1 safety, maybe it's cover 0. I don't think they can go cover 0 and go off man, but maybe it's like cover 1, but again, he doesn't have help to the inside. His help right now is the sideline. He wants Amari Cooper to just take off and go run to the sideline like he's going to run a fade or an out route so he could get right into his hip, force him to the sideline, and give the quarterback no space to be able to make this throw. But we can't allow that to happen as a wide receiver. I got to make sure that I angle my stem correctly and I attack the right part of this DB. So a lot of guys will say, oh, anytime you got off-man coverage and it's inside shade, you want to attack his leverage. You want to square him up. You want to attack the midline. Now, the problem with that, the issue with that, is that when you attack a DB's leverage, you know what he's coached to do when he's inside leverage? Is to keep his leverage. So keep the inside shade. If he's going to attack you, let him keep it. Keep the inside shade, force him to the outside. That's where we want him to run. So if you have an inside breaking route and you square up this DB and then he keeps his leverage to the inside, then you break to the post, you're going to be running right into him. So you got to do what Cooper does and you attack the outside shoulder of this DB because the goal is to get him to flip his hips so I can slip back underneath. When you have off-man inside shade coverage, you want to attack the outside shoulder of the DB because the goal is to get him to flip his hips. The goal is to get him to turn and run with the fade so I can slip back underneath. And maybe if he's a little bit closer, maybe you could even restack and get back over the top of him. But we can't just attack his leverage. I have to attack the outside shoulder. You got to understand the psyche of a DB. He's got a lot of space out here that he needs to cover. So if we can actually sell this route fast, I could commit my shoulders and my hips. I could stay in stride. That's what's going to force him to actually turn. Anytime that you guys are running this route, you don't want to chop your steps. You don't want to raise your pad level because all that is an indicator to this DB that you're not running outside, that a break is going to be coming and he's going to sit on this thing. He's going to match our tempo, stop his feet, and be all over this route. So I got to make sure that I commit to the outside when I attack that outside shoulder. You have to attack his outside shoulder super hard to be able to get him to turn. And then you see Cooper has such a sudden break because he's so committed to the route. So many people ask me like, hey, how do I get my breaks to be more explosive? How can I be more sudden with my cuts? How you do that is you commit to the break. So many guys don't understand that. What guys will do is they'll attack the outside shoulder, then they start to round. They start to round their right shoulder, start to round their right hip, their eyes start to get inside, and then that takes away the explosion of the cut. You have to trust the cut as the thing that's going to change direction for you. The cut is what will get you out of this break. Your upper half has to sell the break. Your stride, your speed, that's what sells the route. So if I can get this DB to turn his hips and I can get out of here suddenly and actually be able to create some explosion, just like that route we talked about with Adams, the suddenness of the feet will create explosion. That can get me a ton of separation. So that is a textbook route there from Amari Cooper. Now let's talk about this. Like just for sake of the example, if you have a 10-yard out route and you had an inside shade DB, what do you think you want to do? Because what was he supposed to do? He's supposed to keep his leverage to the inside, right? So that's when you'd want to attack his leverage. That's when you'd want to angle your stem and attack the midline of the DB because guess what he's going to do? He's going to keep his leverage and then look at all the space I just created for myself. But if you attack his leverage on an inside breaking route, you're going to run right into him and you are going to be covered. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Cooper attacking the outside shoulder, putting the brakes on with that sudden stick, and then getting out of this route. So now we're going to be talking about this route from Kadarius Toney. The main thing I want to focus on here is just like, obviously just the change of direction, right? So like, I wouldn't even necessarily know, like, I don't even know if I'd call this a post out route. Maybe it's like an option. I don't necessarily 100% know what they were trying to do because I don't know the situation on this, but I mainly just want to talk about the change of direction. And this is why he's such a dangerous wide receiver when they're trying him with man coverage, right? Because he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's very, very fast, very, very quick. But when you're not the biggest guy in the world and, you know, you got to be a good route runner. That's just the fact of the matter. You have to be able to create separation. You have to be sudden with your movements. The details of every movement matters. So let's talk about it, right? So all the best route runners, what they're able to do is they're able to be a good salesman. But not only being a good salesman, they're able to change direction with the least amount of time possible, and they're able to suddenly change direction, right? Very similar to what we were talking about with Amari Cooper making that break. So every single route, what's going to get a DB to commit is three things. You got to have speed, number one, and that doesn't even necessarily mean you have to be faster than the guy. You have to be running as hard as you can. Your eyes got to be committed to the break, and your hips and your shoulders have to be committed to the break, right? So when he's kind of selling this post route, that's exactly what he has. He's got speed. He's keeping the same stride. His hips and his shoulders are fully there. He's not starting to round this thing and turn it a little bit. He's not starting to chop his steps. There's no indicators on what he's trying to do. And that's what's going to get this DB. That's what's going to get Diggs to commit to this thing because he's being a salesman. But now, anybody could be a salesman. You could be the worst receiver in the world and you could sell your routes, but you don't have any change of direction. You can't get out of your breaks fast. You can't decelerate. You're not going to get any space because the DB is going to recover. DBs work on those specific things. They work on their recovery speed. They work on reacting off of a DB. They work off of a receiver. They work on receivers dropping their hips and they have to drop their hips and react. They do that all the time, right? So as a receiver, I can be a salesman all I want, but I got to move efficiently at the top of the break. So you see how Toney, when he gets into this route, he drops those hips violently. And you see how it's just like almost like he's running a whip route. You see how low, I know that field goal is kind of in the way, but he's in a very low position where he's dropping his hips. So many receivers will bend at the waist and they'll lean forward. That's not what you want to do. You want an aggressive drop with your pad level. When you could have a drop with your pad level, that helps you put the brakes on, that helps you decelerate, but most importantly, it's like a 40-yard dash. You have to get in that explosive low position to drive out. That's what creates the acceleration. That's what creates speed out of the break so he could widen the distance, right? Because you see Diggs is trying to recover on this thing. As soon as he feels him drop his hips, Diggs is dropping his hips to recover. But if I'm wasting too much time, if I'm taking all these extra steps that I don't need, I'm not saying it's about steps, but it's about not wasting time. If I'm wasting time at that top of the break, guess what he's going to be doing? He's putting his head down. He's driving on this thing. He knows he got beat. He's running as hard as he can. So I got to make sure I take advantage of that with efficient movements at the top of the break. So how you change direction while selling, while being a salesman, is by being violent with your change of direction, violent with your hips, violent with your cuts, so I can create energy to shoot out and move efficiently, number one. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great route there by Kadarius Toney. Really good route runner, and great job being able to keep that separation off the break. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave those in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I always appreciate the feedback. It's always great hearing from you guys. And again, fellas, ultimate wide receiver training schedule, all the specific things that wide receivers need to do in the gym and on the field to take their skills to that next level, broken down into a day-to-day, step-by-step guide. And we include an instructional video where we break down each drill, and then we show examples of each exercise. Check out that very first link in the description below. Again, I'll see you guys next time.